You're watching Breakfast Book Reviews with Logan. This week's episode, The Way of the King. Hello, and welcome to Breakfast Book Reviews with Logan. I just want to start this video out with giving out a quick shout out. This channel has received 1,000 views, and that wouldn't be possible without all of you clicking, viewing, liking, and just all around enjoying the content. I wanted to give a special shout out. Thank you to Griffin, Sam, and Brett, who without them, the content on my videos wouldn't be nearly as good or really possible at all. So I really wanted to give a shout out to them. But without further ado, we'll get into this week's Breakfast Book Review, which is over the book The King, The Way of the Kings. It's written by Brandon Sanderson. If you guys don't know who that is, look him up. But a lot of you guys out there will already know who he is. He wrote the last books of the Wheel of Time series, which was, to me, it sucked. But that was, he was finishing someone else's story. It wasn't written in the same voice, and so I didn't really care for it in the same way that I did for all the other Wheel of Time novels. This novel won the best novel of the year in 2011. It starts off extremely fast-paced. It leaves you kind of, your head spinning, kind of trying to figure out where's everything going, who's doing what, and you really, even the fight scenes, you got to really understand, these aren't normal people, I guess you could say. There's a ton of action, a ton of fighting, to the point where you're just kind of like, your head's just spinning. This book turns into a bit of a setup, as one could expect from a 1,200 page first book in a series. There's not a lot. The first 200-300 pages is like, oh my goodness, how do I get through this? But if you keep reading and you keep plugging along, you're going to really enjoy this book. I'm going to dive in, tell you guys a little bit about a couple of main characters, just so you guys get an idea of, who you're looking for, and what you need to be watching out for. First, we'll talk about Dalinar. He's the High Prince of Athkar, something like that. It's the main kingdom. He's the brother of the king that died at the very beginning of the book, and he's also the uncle to the current king. His nickname is a Blackthorn, and he's like a badass general who has a reputation that basically he can't do any wrong. He's got a ton of personal issues and a ton of own faults that he feels guilty about in almost the whole entire book series. And, his view changes as the book goes on. And I'm not going to give you too many more details than that, but basically he starts off thinking one way, and he makes a 180. Adolin is Dalinar's son. He's basically one of the High Princes, which means he's, top 5, top 10, in line or whatever for the throne. He has this thing called Shard Blades and Shard Plate. So basically what it is it's like a superpower sword and a superpower armor that lets him jump 100 feet up in the air, make incredible feats of strength, and a sword that can cut through almost any armor and do untold amounts of damage. It's basically, there's only like 20 or 30 of these in all of the realm, so you can't really, there's only a certain number. He's got a pretty bad habit of being like too eager to jump into things that he doesn't really understand. Gets him in trouble quite a bit, but who doesn't like a young stud hero who's got everything going for him? That's kind of the point of the book, right? And then there's another guy named Kaladin. Kaladin is what's right and what's right with humanity. So Kaladin is basically starting off, he's, a know-nothing peasant. He joins the army. When he joins the army, he gets betrayed by his commanders. And it just, everything that could go wrong for this guy is going wrong. And, this whole time, he feels like he's got this ability that no one else can see, but it doesn't matter. His commanding officer betrays him, and I'm not going to tell you too much more than that, but basically he ends up in some really sticky, really bad situations, especially considering he's not considered part of the upper class. He's just some guy that happens to be a good fighter. I won't give you too many more details than that, but he's a great read. He's one of my favorite characters. All in all, I give this book about a 4.5 out of 5. There are a few better books that I've read out there, but this one has a ton of rich storylines that it's really hard not to fall for them. you're just reading along and you're like, oh man, you're rooting for everybody. The only negative thing I would say in this book is that you can't really understand why they're fighting. It starts it off by setting it up as a revenge storyline, but they could have been done with this a long time ago. The fighting is something like 10, 15, 20 years or something like that. I mean, it lasts forever. I think the only other issue I have with the book is that the ruler, he's just not that strong of a ruler. He has a ton of flaws, a ton of very easily, picked at points where he's getting manipulated the whole entire book, and that's just not really enjoyable to me when, someone who's supposed to be the leader, the king, is just horrible at his job. But all in all, this is quite an enjoyable read. It has so much flair for the dramatic, and it's a page-turner. I mean, it's 1,200 pages, but dang if you're not wanting to pick it up every chance you get and keep page-turning. If you have time for an interesting and epic fantasy, I definitely recommend this book. Don't judge him on what he did in Wheel of Time. Judge him on what he's writing in terms of his own stories. Let me know what you guys want me to read next, and I'll make sure that I try and get that done. Next week we're going to try and tackle Trump's book, Make America Great Again, or something like that. I don't even know. But we're going to read Trump's book and dive into that. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week, and check up next Monday. Bye.
Thanks for watching Breakfast Book Reviews with Logan. Tune in next week for another great episode. Bye.